I am so glad you're here for another episode of Mechanism Monday, where every Monday we write out the electron-pushing arrow mechanisms for different chemical transformations. In last week's video, I asked if you could solve the mechanism for this chemical transformation, so if you haven't had a chance, pause the video now and try it independently. And make sure you stick around to the end because I'll give you another mechanism to solve for next week's video. In this reaction, we have an allyl borane reacting with an aldehyde to give us a completely rearranged product. And I think upon initial inspection, it looks like this is going to be pretty difficult. But as you'll see as we walk through this, we're going to talk about some of the ways that this reaction can take place, and it actually only happens in 2 steps. Remember that boron-containing species are generally going to be electron deficient. Because boron only has 3 valence electrons, it typically forms bonds to 3 things, and this is one of the elements that doesn't satisfy the octet rule. And what can happen, and this is very common in boron chemistry, is that you can have a complexation where you have a Lewis acid base adduct that forms between Lewis bases and Lewis acids, which boron containing compounds are. So what will happen is that this oxygen will actually come and bind to the boron species, giving us an adduct. And if we're to think about what that adduct looks like, we would still have this aldehyde species here, but now we're going to have a complexation between the oxygen and the boron. And then the rest of the molecule still looks mostly the same, so we still have our dimethyl groups coming off of that, and then we have our allyl species at this location. And importantly, this has basically made boron negatively charged, and it has made oxygen positively charged. Which you may be thinking, now we've created charged species, surely this isn't very stable. And you're right that it isn't going to be incredibly stable. This isn't the most stable adduct on the planet, but it is stable enough to actually occur in some sort of equilibrium between these 2 species because boron, remember, is an electron deficient molecule. This is what's known as a Lewis acid base pair. And since this is going to give us a positively charged oxygen, that's going to make this carbonyl carbon incredibly electrophilic and highly susceptible to nucleophilic attack. And notice that next to it is a part of this allyl group, which can act as a nucleophile through these pi electrons, where these can come and attack this carbonyl carbon. And this is actually going to serve to move these pi electrons to oxygen, allowing for it to be neutral. And in doing so, what's actually going to happen is that these electrons, which were previously contained between boron and carbon, are going to come over to move over to this position in order to give us something that isn't going to end up with a carbocation at this position and giving us back a neutral boron species. And in fact, the product of that reaction is our final product. And you may be thinking, how can this possibly occur? And we should think about the transition state in this electrocyclic process that might allow for this to occur and not give us a very strained system. So notice this is going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements that are participating in the transition state of this electrocyclic system. And that geometry of this transition state, since it's so unstrained, actually can allow for this reaction to occur. So remember, if we have 6 members, then you've probably learned in organic chemistry about chair conformations. So if we start by drawing that carbonyl oxygen at this position, and then we have our aldehyde here, remember this is going to be connected to a boron at this position. It has those 2 methyl groups coming off of it. It's negatively charged and the oxygen is positively charged. Then we had that allyl group, so a carbon here, followed by a carbon here. And then we have the pi system that looks like this, and then that contains a methyl group in this position and a hydrogen at this position. So notice that this looks practically like a chair conformation that you learned about in organic chemistry, where the bond that we're forming would complete that 6-member chair conformation. So in fact, what is happening here is we've created a relatively unstrained system that can allow this transition state to proceed to our product. Now with that in mind, I want you to consider a completely different type of reaction. Notice here we used an allyl borane. If we had instead used a boron-containing species that did not contain this allyl process, no reaction actually happens. So for example, if we had used trimethyl borane, where there are 3 methyl groups contained at this boron, and we had tried to react it with an aldehyde, no reaction actually occurs. This is not a productive pathway. And I want you to think about for a second, and even pause the video to see if you can figure out why this reaction doesn't occur, but when using the allyl borane it does. Again, really pause the video, see if you can figure it out, and then resume the video to check my explanation. All right, last chance, here goes. So, if we are to consider this trimethyl borane reacting with this aldehyde, and we remember this process was allowed to occur because of this transition state, then we should probably think about the transition state that would occur between these compounds. So for example, remember the first step is going to be that complexation where you create your Lewis acid-base adduct. And that adduct, if we draw the same on this side, remember we had our aldehyde located at this position, so we have that carbon to oxygen double bond here. It is going to contain a bond to boron at this position. And then notice what would end up happening is that there are 3 methyl groups coming off of this. So a methyl group here, a methyl group here, and a methyl group here. If we think about that CH3 being the methyl group, notice that this would have to form a bond at this position. So what is being generated here is a 1, 2, 3, 4-membered transition state ring. And because that is a 4-membered ring, that is going to be incredibly strained, and therefore this intermediate or this transition state would probably never be formed because it's so energetically unfavorable. And since that's the case, that is why these 2 reagents don't give us a productive rearrangement where we can generate a product like we could in our example where we had this allo group. If you enjoyed this week's mechanism, make sure to give it a thumbs up down below. And for next week, I'd love to see if you could figure out the mechanism for this chemical transformation. Drop your thoughts as a comment down below and make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you never miss another Mechanism Monday. I'll see you next week.